Hi guys, this is Brittany from Canadian Beats and I'm on the line with Adam from Carbolizer. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Brittany.
Good, I'm glad. I'm glad that we could finally connect. I know we've had some trouble, so
It's happened. It's
yeah.
finally happened, yeah.
So to start off the interview, you recently released your self-titled album. Tell me the process of picking why each song made it onto the album.
Oh, jeez. Well, I spent about the better part of 2 years recording music under what I would eventually, I guess I defined the Project Carbolizer already, but I went to Paris and did a residency in 2016, and I started putting together some songs and writing in different ways and exploring different lyrical themes and different ways of kind of expressing some narrative. And ultimately I ended up writing about, I guess, 7 or 8 songs around that time. And I didn't end up actually recording. I did some demo recording of them, but through that process, I kind of refined things a bit, and I started writing some newer music, and all that work kind of led to basically the songs that you've heard on the new release. I finished most of them at another residency 1 year later at the Banff Center last fall in 2017, and I felt like I'd refined what I was starting to think about with the Carbolizer project into something that I felt like I wanted to share. I think the 7 tracks that are on the record, demonstrate some different approaches or different ideas to song, to music composition and lyrics and things like that. So yeah, I think it was fairly intentional that it seemed to me like I had a group of songs that fit together as a statement. And I think that's what you really, I don't know, unless you set out with an intention like I'm going to write 8 songs, they're all going to be on a record, I think you're almost waiting for the record to tell you it's done. And I think, it told me it was done, so I was done.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you do if you wrote a bunch of songs and some of them don't make it onto the record? Do you hold them on for another album, or do you do them specifically when you're playing?
It's pretty rare that I go back. I occasionally, if a song doesn't make it onto a release or recording, it's usually because I'm not that fond of it, to be honest, or there's something about it that doesn't feel like a statement that I want to publish. In some cases, I have been able to kind of, I would say the only way that they make it onto a release is if I end up kind of recycling an idea from it. Like there might be a passage or a piece of music that ends up becoming the seed of another song or track. That's the only way that they ever really see the light of day. Otherwise, they're resigned to obscurity.
For sure. So one of your singles that did make a record was Editor. So explain to me the creative process behind that song.
How did that song come together? You know what? That was kind of that was the last track to be finished for the album, and that's a good example of a song where it started with an idea, like a little, this little melody or keyboard line that ended up not making the song. So it started from something that is no longer attached to the song. Working at the Banff Center, I had the luxury of having this music studio to myself, and every music studio has a grand piano, which is a ridiculous luxury, but one I took advantage of, and I ended up kind of just doing some composition with that piano, and I kind of fell into this. The end of the track, you hear this kind of long instrumental passage with this kind of spiraling melody line, and I wrote that on that grand piano, and it was the thing that the song needed, and I having the time and space at Banff Center, I was able to kind of wrap my head around it and finish it, and now it finally felt like a song. And I think just from a lyrical perspective, I've been exploring different themes. That song in particular is just kind of just about the role of a narrator and what kind of responsibility somebody that's writing has to the audience or to the reader. And just interesting, I think given the political climate and the kind of global anxieties that we're affronted with on every second of every day now, I think a lot about bias and ideas and agendas that people have when they write things. And that song is kind of exploring that and the anxiety maybe attached to it, but also like, yeah, I don't know. I think there's something positive in there. I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's more expressed maybe musically than lyrically.
Yeah, no, for sure. So with you releasing Editor and then also doing your self-titled album, you just wrapped a Canadian tour. So what was the most surprising thing that happened to you on this tour?
What surprised me? I don't know if it surprised me, but I would say the most noteworthy thing was, previous projects that I've been in, you play in the usual bars in the usual towns or the usual like small music venues. And this time around, I wanted to, the tough thing about electronic music is it doesn't translate well in environments where you can't control the lighting, or where you can't control the volume of the music. There's nothing worse than trying to play this kind of music while a TV is blaring somewhere in the distance or something. So I was pretty intentional about reaching out to different artists that I know across the country and promoters and trying to book shows in alternative venues and spaces. And so I did quite a few shows in non-traditional venues and in artist-run spaces, and it was a really, it's a bit more work because it's not, these places aren't always set up for music, so you got to inject a little more labor and attention to detail, but you can really get the environment tuned up to what you want it to be. And for me, it's really important because I need it to be loud and I need projections, and I want to create an immersive environment because that's the way that music needs to be experienced. So I had a chance to do that at a variety of venues across Canada, and it was really special, and certainly I learned a lot from that too.
So you were talking about how you played maybe not such traditional venues on this tour. What was your favorite non-traditional venue to play?
I gotta say, I don't want to, I have friends that run some of these venues, so I don't want to say that one is better than another, but, I think my favorite show was actually the hometown show here in Calgary on Friday last week, because we did it at a place called M Media, which is it's actually like a digital media collective, but they had this great black box where they do presentations and things, and I loved that it was literally a black box where we could, set up our sound system and get the projections right, and just and the audience, showed up and really appreciated it, and we had great music from Corinthian, who's one of my favorite Calgary, one of my favorite Canadian artists, and he happens to live in Calgary, and Insect Human, and it was just the night felt really good, it's that one of those things where the music's great, it sounds great, the vibe's great, everybody's kind of in the moment, and it just felt great. So I need another adjective for great.
No, for sure.
A synonym for great. Yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, amazing. There you go.
Well, Adam, those were all my questions for tonight. I want to thank you for taking the time to jump on the phone with me and being able to connect and tell me about your new album and your new single and how your tour went. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. I appreciate the attention and the coverage.
Yeah, of course.